Where does the law of attraction come up short? What I'm about to share with you is likely going to ruffle some feathers out there. I know not everybody's going to agree with this, and that's fine. My goal is just to present you with a different way of seeing this topic that is hopefully helpful to you, as it has been to me. And the reason I want to go into this is I've noticed that there are definitely some missing pieces in the way that the law of attraction is typically discussed. And we've all heard these kinds of teachings that, your dominant thoughts are creating your outer reality. Whatever you're holding in your mind the most and feeling the most, focusing on the most, that's what you're going to see in outer reality. And there's something really intriguing and compelling about thinking of life in this way, that it's a mirror for your mind, right? It's a reflection of your state of consciousness. And I definitely think there's value in that way of seeing life. I definitely think we can draw a lot of interesting insights and learn a lot about ourselves by thinking of life as a mirror. However, what I've come to discover is this is just one piece of the puzzle. And what's really going on behind the scenes is a little more nuanced than this. So it's fairly easy, in my way of seeing it, to dispel some of the myths around the law of attraction. Like, you always create or attract what's in your dominant thinking mind. And whatever you're feeling and focusing on the most, that's what you're going to create. All of us actually have a ton of evidence that this is not really that true. We all think about things in a negative way, or feed them with a lot of negative energy, imagining worst case scenarios, holding on to fears. We all have this tendency to think about this stuff a lot, yet a lot of this stuff never manifests in our life. It doesn't actually come into physical reality just because it's something we've been thinking about a lot. And on the contrary, think about all the things that have popped into your reality that you never thought about, ever. So if you're really honest with yourself, you'll notice there are all kinds of things happening in your life that you never thought about at all. And even if you think about in terms of, when you're a baby and you don't have a conscious thinking mind that's holding dominant thoughts in the way we do as adults, what's creating reality then? How are you attracting what's showing up then based on that? And some people will say, that's based on reincarnation and your karma from past lives. But the thing is we don't know all of that for sure. We can't really verify that that's true. So a lot of it is kind of left to speculation. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of check out with the law of attraction. It just feels like you have to take this leap of faith into the unknown when it comes to, how is reality being shaped? We don't really know a lot of the time how that's happening. So like I said, it's more complex and it's more nuanced than just whatever you're thinking about or feeling or focused on most of the time is manifesting in your life. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes than that. So in my own life, I've had many experiences of playing around with manifestation techniques and experimenting and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And I've had a lot of interesting experiences doing it. But I would say overall, it's been a very mixed bag. My entire experience, although anecdotal, completely supports the idea that sometimes this stuff seems to work and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you do seem to get the things you want, and a lot of the times you don't, whether you're holding them in your conscious mind or not. So there's once again something more fundamental to what's creating your reality than just what you're focusing on, what's going on in your dominant thinking mind. And that's really what I encourage you to explore. And I think that's where we can glean a lot of freedom and insight about ourselves and our lives. Now, I think seeing it in this new way is especially helpful if you are someone who has tried a lot of these law of attraction techniques and felt like they either just did not work at all, you felt like you failed at them, or they failed you, or you just got really mixed results. Of course, every now and then you hear the story of somebody who, every time they try this, it just works wonders in their reality, and it's just a never-ending cascade of miracles. But at least I do. I always kind of look at those scenarios with a little bit of suspicion and really? I'm not so sure about that. But I think for most of us, it has been a mixed bag, and we are left wondering what we're missing. Because there are so many things going on in our reality that we don't control, that show up just out of nowhere. There are a lot of things that pop in that we absolutely would not prefer, even though we're not focusing on those things. So what is going on there? Well, I think the most healthy way to look at this, and the most accurate way to look at it, is that you are a character in an epic story. And this story is created by, you could say the author of the story is what I would call infinite intelligence. Whatever label you give this, it doesn't matter. It's really the creative source of life, of the universe itself. It's infinite creative power. It's what is behind the scenes shaping into your entire existence. And you can actually have an experience of yourself being that rather than a separate self, a separate ego personality. And what I've discovered is when you start to learn this kind of art and skill of letting go of the false self and living in a closer alignment with who you really are, that's when a lot of this manifestation stuff starts to make more sense. And honestly, I think what most people will say is that they give up some of the agenda they had to get all this stuff that isn't here now, to let their mind just run rampant with desires and focus on those desires and try to manifest those things. A lot of that way of living tends to dissolve, because what you come to realize is when you're being brutally honest, you don't really know what would make for the best story for you. You don't really know what would make you the happiest. A lot of this is meant to come into your life by surprise and spontaneously, and that's designed that way from an infinitely intelligent place. So this part of us that always has to know, that always thinks it knows, that knows what it wants and knows what will make us happy, that whole way of seeing yourself gets called into question, and you just no longer buy into it as much. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have what I call core desires that pop in. These are desires that are usually long-term, that you can just tell they're genuine to who you are, they're from your heart, and it feels like a meaningful expression to bring them to physical reality. I think we all have those as human beings. It's what makes for an interesting story. But because you're living out a story, any good story is going to have ups and downs. It's going to have trials and tribulations. It's going to have insurmountable obstacles. And it's going to have scenes where the main character is really, really wanting certain things to happen, and they're just not happening yet. It's like delayed gratification. We're left with a lot of uncertainty around whether the character is going to get these things or not. Frustration, anxiety, fear, tension start to build in the story. And a lot of this tension is what makes for a good story. So if you remove that tension from your own human experience, on the surface level, in the ego's mind, we say, yes, that's what I want. That would really help me. But on a deeper level, it's kind of that tension around the unknown that makes your life interesting, that makes it juicy, that gives it layers and texture. And honestly, that gives it meaning. So we think we want predictability and safety and certainty, but in a deeper spiritual sense, we really don't. It's actually the unknown that causes us to feel alive the most, that causes us to feel giddy with anticipation and happy. So, the fundamental paradigm shift here, in my experience, has been instead of seeing things through the lens of life being a mirror, where you're always attracting your dominant thoughts or feelings, or even your state of being, life is more like a story. And a lot of the dynamics in the story are meant to be surprising and meant to kind of keep you guessing about what's going on in your reality. And when you don't get the things that you think you want, it gives you a tremendous opportunity to come face to face with your inner demons, limiting beliefs, what I call corrupted files in your operating system, and have the willingness to purge those things, to purge those qualities that are limiting, that are convincing you that you are separate, that you are fragmented. When you always get the things you want, there's really no opportunity to reclaim your power in this particular kind of way. So the delaying of gratification in your story is extremely important in order for the story to have meaning and interest. And you can also think of it this way. If you have a core desire that has not been actualized yet, And you're feeling some tension around that. You're feeling like, God, I really want that thing. And it's starting to really frustrate you that you're not having it, or it's concerning you. It's generating difficult emotions. To the degree that you experience the lack of that thing showing up in your life, and you're face to face with all those limiting beliefs and painful emotions, and you feel all that deeply, when you actually get the thing, if that's meant to show up in your story, when you actualize that core desire, the degree to which you suffered to get it awakens all of the most delicious emotions possible. And it's that unique contrast that we want to experience the most. It's this delicious paradox of dark and light, of suffering and liberation, contraction and expansion. So that's kind of what we're doing when we're playing the game of getting what we want, of trying to manifest. When we don't get it, we have to face our demons. When we do get it, we feel fulfillment to the degree that we had to go deep to face those demons and come out the other side. If we just got those things without facing the demons, purging those limiting beliefs, well, we wouldn't really enjoy it nearly as much as we think we could or would. It would have a tiny fraction of the fulfillment and power than it otherwise would. So, in my life, this has been far more helpful and more accurate to see my life as a story unfolding, and I'm the main character in the story. This was all created by infinite intelligence. And instead of me always attracting the things that I want or not attracting them, or where I need to focus on this and I need to have gratitude for this and I need to, get my imagination working in this way, instead, it's more a matter of letting go of that which is blocking you from being in a truthful relationship with yourself, and from seeing that your life is quite literally a wide open field of possibility, and that there is this intelligence behind the scenes shaping your story, scripting it. And that's where the creative power is. It's not in you thinking certain thoughts all the time. It's coming from behind the scenes. So the goal is to more or less merge with that power, align with it, surrender into it, and let it dictate, guide you into the trajectory of your life. And the more and more you suspend your own agenda, your own need to control that process, and it just flows through you. This is what flowing downstream feels like in life. Now, of course, as you do this more, as you're flowing downstream, you've dropped resistance, guess what tends to happen more? You tend to attract more of the things that you want from a place of core desires, because you're aligned mechanically, in a sense, with the nature of the universe. You've gotten yourself out of the way. You're no longer subtly or overtly clinging to neediness, to lack. And that's usually when you're broadcasting this new signal of energy that says, oh, okay, I'm already there. I'm already complete. Abundance is already here. And whatever I'm quote unquote trying to manifest from that place feels much more playful and much more spacious. And that's what optimizes the opportunity for you to have it in physical reality. So yes, it is all a little bit of a Zen koan, right? A riddle. It's meant to be a little bit of a, I hate to say it, but kind of a mindfuck, honestly. It's meant to twist our intellect up so it itself can't solve this particular problem. Your intellect is designed to be limited in its ability to truly process and integrate this information. You have to let that go and get into your intuition, get into your spirit, get into your body, let this ripple through consciousness, and let its own momentum take you. Let it ride you. Let it do what it wants with you. And there's a lot of freedom in that way of living. It sounds scary, and maybe it sounds like you're giving up something that you wanted, like you wanted control over actualizing all of your desires. And that's why you're trying to use the law of attraction. It doesn't mean you even have to give that up per se. It's just that when you do what I'm talking about, which is renouncing the small separate self, manifestation takes on a very different meaning. And there tends to be a lot more patience and silliness and playfulness and relaxation around it, which once again tends to optimize the process. So can you see how it's kind of this built-in catch-22? If there's a solid, clunky, separate self in there that's trying to manifest using the law of attraction, it's going to be frustrating a lot of the time. It's going to feel random. You're going to feel like you're getting mixed messages. If you are infinite intelligence living out this cosmic story through your unique character called you, Sally, John, Bob, Kevin, whatever it is, that's a totally different ballgame. That frees you up to really maximize your potential and your sense of presence on this planet. Because there's nothing to be afraid of from that place. You really can't screw it up. You really can't get off track. So these are my thoughts on where the law of attraction comes up short. I hope I didn't ruffle too many feathers, and if I did, I hope it was constructive for you. And if you like this kind of content and you want to explore these topics with me further, be sure to hit that subscribe button below this video. Hit like on the video if you wouldn't mind, and give it a thumbs up. And if you have any insight or questions, just let me know below. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.